Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hinata Ino and Tayuya Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Groaning and stretching as he stood alone in the middle of the training grounds, was a content Naruto who was ready for a new day. While Kakashi-sensei had given them a few days to relax and recuperate from their C-turned-a-rank mission, Naruto of all of them was ready to buckle down even harder than before. So here he was, half of the headhunter's cleaver on his back and ready to experiment. Bracing himself and making an even 200 clones, Naruto raised a fist and grinned. One half is for chakra control with water walking, 1/4 is for Shunshin practice, and the last quarter are for seal practice. Let's get to it. Before he fully turned away, the clearing was filled with cheers before the sounds of just yus followed. Sitting down under a tree while placing the still just as large as him sword down against the wood next to him, Naruto unsealed a jar of sealing ink and a brush. Removing his black jacket and getting to work on a scroll, he began to work on applying seals first to the paper, and then adhering the paper to his body. From frequent trips to the library and exhausting what scrolls he could borrow on seals, Naruto had learned about these latest ones that would help him with his physical training. Those were weight seals. Instead of dealing with bulky weights that eventually wouldn't be able to keep up, Naruto had decided that these would probably work better in the long run. Finishing and applying one to his chest, where he already could feel the added weight, he started on the next one. The seals were preset to apply a certain percentage of his body weight, which he could later adjust at any point with just a few brush strokes. Eventually, with enough training, he hoped to be able to strong enough to wave around this giant sword like a feather. But one thing at a time, so they say. Finishing up a total set of 6 more seals and linking them all together with a master on or off seal on his left wrist, 2 for each leg, and 1 on each forearm, he activated each before putting his supplies away. Maybe I overdid it. Groaning and forcing himself to stand and eventually doing so, Naruto shook his head. Won't get stronger if I don't push myself, let's get to it. Starting off at a slow jog, his goal for the day was to hopefully get up to running speed somewhat close to normal. As usual, if Naruto had been paying attention, he would have considered that the complete set of 7 weight seals didn't total out to a percentage of his total weight, but each seal individually did so. Meaning at the moment, he was trying to run with about 3 times his normal weight. Unnoticed by the sweating blonde was a girl who was doing her best to work up the courage to talk to him. She had heard that his team had returned to the village, and with some light teasing from her own sensei, she had come out early during their own rest day to try to see him. As usual, she had found him training to the max. Lavender eyes gaining some determination as she thought of her potential rival and how she wouldn't have a problem talking to her crush, Hinata Hyuga stepped out from behind the tree and made her way to a struggling Naruto. "GG, good morning Naruto-kun." She actually spoke out to him. Looking over and seeing the quiet girl, Naruto had to puzzle out for a moment to remember who she was. He didn't speak to her much at the academy, but she was one of the few that was never really mean to him. What was her name again? Oh, hey Hinata-chan. Come out to train early today. Sorry I'm taking up the training ground here, I can clear out if ya need. He was sure each team had their own training ground, but he could be wrong. Shaking her head and gaining some confidence, Hinata strode forward. No, you're not in the way. Maybe I could join you. Be bold, be bold, be bold. Sure. The more the merrier. I'm working on my physical fitness right now with weight seals, so I'll be a little slow, but you can join me or work with any of my clones, I've got a bunch. Laughing at himself a bit, he continued making laps of the field. Deciding some jogging would be good to start with, she was quick to catch up with Naruto and ran with him on his left, though slightly behind him. The seals he had applied to himself looked complex and well done, and she was so focused on them she almost forgot that she was staring at Naruto's bare arms. Were his muscles always that defined? Blush forming on her face, she did her best to shake her thoughts away. You know, it's gonna get hot soon, you may want to lose that thick jacket. Don't wanna pass out early. Seeing it as the most logical thing, Naruto pointed out his own jacket. You can stash it next to mine if you'd like. Going scarlet at the thought of taking off her jacket while in front of Naruto, and was ready to deny it and tell him she was fine. Jade eyes crossed her mind. Would she have a problem? Of course not, she didn't need to wear a bulky jacket or hide herself away. Be bold. SSS sure thing. I'll catch up. Dashing away as they came up to Naruto's jacket and sword, Hinata gave his things a quick once-over before, all at once making her decision, shucked her jacket and ran to rejoin the boy. Clad in a standard black kunoichi top with mesh lining, Hinata was back to running just behind the bright blonde boy. They ran together in silence for a while, one doing everything he could to focus on not letting the weight crush him, while the other was trying not to die of embarrassment. But, after long enough, the routine of training kicked in, and her blush began to ebb away. Focused on the boy's back, she worked herself up to ask a question. Naruto-kun, what happened to your eye? Slowing only slightly, Naruto thought of how to explain the change of the color to her. Officially Kakashi-sensei said that he should tell everyone that because it was damaged due to potentially poison that it changed the color permanently. But it felt a little too fake. Then again, if he changed the story now Kakashi-sensei would get seriously mad with him, never mind Gigi. Well, during our mission I was fighting this really tough opponent who used Senbon. He got me pretty good once and it tore up my eye. Thankfully for some reason I've always healed fast, but now it's just purple. Nothing special about it. And that was true. Besides one of his eyes now being purple, there was nothing different about it. I'm glad to see you've recovered. Though that scar looks painful. Hinata was alluding to the long but thin scar that went from the corner of his left eye to nearly his temple. It didn't bug him at all, only occasionally itching, but that was it. Slowing and motioning that he was getting on the ground, Naruto began a long series of push-ups while Hinata absently dropped in front of him and did the same. Well, it doesn't hurt all, promise. Just a little itchy sometimes. Gulping down air and focusing on the ground, Naruto wasn't fully prepared when he looked up to make eye contact with the lavender-eyed girl. Because while her cute face was watching him with an inquisitive look, the front of her shirt drooped quite a bit. Blushing and forcefully staring directly into her eyes, Naruto swore to the kami he wasn't turning into his sensei. Seeing her crush turn red, she had to note that he had a lot of weight on him if the amount of chakra flowing through those seals were an idea. And it was starting to warm up now that the sun was rising. Thinking for a while as she hadn't talked to him, ever, she was curious about what else he had gotten up to. It was pretty easy to talk to him once she got going. How was it, your first mission outside? Diverting his eyes down and focusing intently on the dirt, unintentionally giving Hinata the idea that things weren't all that great, even if that was the truth, Naruto eventually started recounting the mission. From start to finish he talked about their grumpy old man client, the not-so-smart demon brothers, their first run-in with Zabuza, and all the craziness that followed. His tale took long enough for both young ninja to move one from push-ups to sit-ups. Then from sit-ups to squats. Finishing his normal strength training and standing straight finally with a smile, Naruto wound down his story and pointed at his sword, and then we've been back for a few days, I still haven't started really training with Headhunter. But Kakashi said I have plenty of time, and at my level he said it's more of a one-motion weapon anyway, so I should focus on simple movements first. Which he would, and eventually he would find a teacher. Mesmerized by the determination and grit of the boy in front of her, Hinata internally had to hope that one day she could measure up to that same standard. I think you've made a lot of progress, Naruto-kun. Pausing as she looked up at a now visibly higher sun she smiled, I think you'll make your dreams come true, one day. Happy that he had a friend who believed in him, Naruto hooked a thumb towards the tree where their stuff was, wanna spar for a bit before taking a break for lunch. I've never fought a Hyuga before. Nodding without a thought and waiting for the boy to get situated across from her, she eventually lowered into her family stance. I'm ready. Grinning, Naruto fired forward, seemingly no longer hindered by the extra weight. Let's do this. For the rest of the morning, Naruto and Hinata sparred back and forth. Hinata showing flexibility and amazing skill in both evading Naruto's wild strikes and punishing his overextensions when she could. In turn, while Naruto was slowed down somewhat, he still hit a lot harder than she was used to, but she was happy that someone was taking her seriously. Kiba had a tendency to pull his punches with her, and Shino wasn't the physical type at all. Both children happy, and in the moment it was a carefree Naruto who eventually slipped up, not being able to back away from a strike from Hinata completely and taking a full force Juken to the side for his error. Yow. That's smarts. Lifting his shirt and looking at the bruise forming, Hinata was too frazzled to continue herself. While normally she would be blushing at Naruto's brazen abs display, she was more worried about the damage she may have done. She had moved completely on instinct and hadn't meant to strike with such force. But as Naruto just grinned and laughed, he shrugged and put down his shirt. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Never better. Man, your hits pack a punch. No wonder you're so good. I bet your team really appreciates you. Ever one to dish out compliments, Naruto was all smiles. Plus he was sure the fox was already healing the damage, more than likely he'd be fine in a few minutes. While the huffing and puffing girl wasn't too sure about that, she did look around as there seemed to be a lot less clones on the training field with them. Naruto, what happened to your clones? Looking around and then looking up, Naruto nodded. It's lunchtime. They usually disperse to warn me that it's time to eat. Guess I'm a little distracted. With a chuckle, Naruto was already turning to pick up his down jacket and sword. I didn't mean to break your routine, Naruto-kun. She hadn't meant to be a bother, she knew how important a routine could be to some people. No sweat, I had fun. We should train together again sometime. Working up a sweat together is the best way to spend a morning. Hearing a thump behind him, Naruto looked back at the passed out Hinata, steam billowing from her ears. Wait, Hinata-chan. You okay? Hey, wake up. Poor boy would learn to choose his words better in the future with someone who had such an active imagination. Blushing but walking next to the grinning boy, Hinata was poking her fingers together as they walked to Ichiraku's ramen stand. I'm sorry for the trouble. Waving his hand with no concern, Naruto was all smiles. It's no sweat, I pass out after a good workout lots of times. I wouldn't judge. Turning and holding the flap for the stand open, Naruto called out, Hey there, old man. Need a dozen bowls or pork ramen today. Tons of training to catch up on. Looking up to see his favorite customer waltz in, his grin grew a few sizes seeing a blue-haired and lavender-eyed girl coming in along with him. And what was this? Naruto pulled out a seat for her. Oh ho. Well, my boy, order coming up. And what about the little lady? Nearly overwhelmed by the smiling face above them, Hinata pointed at the sign behind him. Miso would be nice, please. Watching the man nod and turn away, there was a pretty girl who came out from the back room upon hearing Naruto was there. Hey there, Ayame-ne-chan. Any good news today? Naruto, as always, considered these two some of his most important people in this village. Now if only he had Iruka here, it'd be a nearly perfect lunch. Nope, Naruto, nothing new so far. Though it's a sight to see you in here with such a cutie. Who's this? Both teasing and curious, Ayame turned to the Hyuga girl. Rocking in his seat slightly, Naruto nodded. This is Hinata-chan. She's on a different team, but she's a good friend of mine. We've been catching up this morning since we haven't really seen each other since the academy. Finally getting his first bowl of ramen, Naruto started to dig in. Shaking her head at the boy's antics, Ayame nodded to the younger girl who had her jacket in her lap. Well, if Naruto says you're good people, you're always welcome here. Looking the younger girl over, however, a sly grin worked its way on her face. Plus, Naruto really needs someone level-headed to watch out for him. Don't let all the training fool you, he's kind of an airhead. Ignoring the protests from the boy, Hinata nodded to the older woman with a smile on her face. This was nice, warm, much warmer than her family at home. Turning slightly as someone else threw open the barrier, it was a loud girlish voice that drew attention. I knew I heard a loudmouth. What's up, Whiskers? You overdo it again. Ino wasn't normally one for ramen, but she was one for following things that interested her. And currently, that was a ditzy blonde. Throwing up a hand and greeting the jade-eyed girl, Naruto was still in high spirits. Ino-chan. You ditch the lazy trio. While he and the Yamanaka hadn't hung out all that much, they had occasionally chatted about plants and their uses and meanings. Ino hadn't been prepared for a boy to know stuff like that, and it was what got her started watching the boy. And as she slid into the seat next to him and placed her own order, she had to silently beg forgiveness from Hinata. Sorry, but you snooze you lose. While it wasn't a done deal that she had a serious interest in him, she was curious, and that was enough right now. They're all laying out over on the hill near our training ground. Asuma said today should be a lazy day and I got bored. Figured I could track you down and watch you blow stuff up. What have you been doing? Leaning forward to look past the boy, Ino gave a wave to the demure Hyuga. Hey there, Hinata-san. Long time. Nodding to her, Hinata would always be polite, likewise Ino-san. Thinking over this development and not liking it, Hinata sat up a little straighter. Naruto-kun and I have been training all morning. Turning to the newest addition, Naruto nodded quickly. Yeah, we have. Hinata is super awesome and packs a mean punch. He missed the look that passed between the two girls. Does she? Maybe we'll have to spar too. Oh ho, maybe the timid girl was growing a spine after all. Well, she had a long time to go before she could stand up to the gossip queen. Hinata turned back to her own dish, silently ordering another. I wouldn't mind a spar, Ino-san. It could be worthwhile. Ignoring what sitting up so straight was doing to her shirt, Hinata could not back down in the face of her enemy right now. Relaxing into her own stool and adjusting her hair over her shoulder, Ino nodded as her own veggie ramen came. I'm sure it will be. Oh, it was on Hyuga. Trying not to laugh at the scene unfolding before her, Ayame turned back to her father with a grin. While he was doing his best to focus on making food and dealing out orders, she could see the smirk on his face. Her little brother was so popular. Oh, she couldn't wait to tease him about this later, when the two youngsters weren't around trying to stake their claim. Deciding to nudge the boat, so to speak, Ayame leaned a new bowl in front of Naruto while taking away his small stack. So Naruto, anything new going on with you besides training? How are your teammates doing? Bring up Sakura, that always got a rise out of him. Shrugging and waving his chopsticks about, Naruto dimmed only a little. Well, Sasuke said he was going to train like crazy and make sure I didn't get ahead of him, not like he can beat me anyway. Ah, sorry Ino-chan. He only delayed remembered her crush on the broody boy. Ah, don't worry about it, that crush stuff was for the academy. We're ninja now, we gotta focus right. She saw how being a fangirl wasn't working for Sakura, and no one would accuse Ino of not being able to learn from others' mistakes. Mismatched purple and blue eyes locked on the girl. Naruto's opinion of her ticked up a few notches. God, I wish Sakura would get that message. She's always on about the stick in the mud. I mean, he's warmed up a bit since we've been on a team, but she's still the same old Sakura. Maybe before he had really focused on his own training he would probably be the same. But with all the hard work and progress he made, it was easy to see how far behind the pink it was getting. Have you offered to train with Sakura-san? It was Hinata who garnered his attention now, leaning forward just slightly more than proper while looking up at the male blonde. Oh, score one for the quiet one. Was that a blush on Naruto's face? I've tried, but she always blows me off, so I gave up a while ago. Says something about it'll affect her figure or whatever. I mean, we're ninja, as much as we work out and train, you gotta eat all you can, not like it's easy for us to put on the weight. Naruto was a testament to that. Ever since he had upped his training, he was almost always hungry. Good thing mission pay was pretty decent and his apartment was dirt cheap. Ino grimaced for only a moment, that cheap little hussy. So she had some BS already, but that wasn't everything. So do you like girls with a little weight on them then, Naruto-kun? Attempting a decent lowered tone, she was declaring war. Naruto finished his last bowl with a satisfied smile. I mean, everyone should be healthy. Starving yourself is no good. Point of the question flying way over his head, but it was enough for the girls on either side of him. Well, Naruto-kun, since you're finished, would you like to continue training? Hinata herself put down her last bowl. Only slightly behind the boy, she'd show her dedication in her own way. Take that stick, girl. Shaking his head, Naruto held up a scroll. Actually, I gotta run to the Hokage Tower first. I forgot Gigi summoned me about something with the mission. Then I gotta hit the library. Mismatched eyes turning to the Hyuga, his bright smile had the girl swooning, but we can train tomorrow. I still have another couple of free days. Seeing the girl nod in return, Naruto did the polite thing and turned to Ino. I know you'll probably be with your own team, but you're welcome to join us too, Ino-chan. Oh, you never know, it could be fun. I'll let ya know later. Waving as the boy paid for his meal, and leaving enough to cover Hinata's and hers, he was out the door and down the street before both girls turned on each other. Listen up, princess. Just cause you've liked him for a long time doesn't mean no one else can show interest. You've had plenty of time to make a move. Says the hussy that jumps from newest fad to newest fad. I'm actually interested in Naruto-kun, what about you? Eyes hard, things were escalating a little too quickly. Okay, time out. Ayame clapped her hands, seeing a reason to intervene now that the clueless boy was gone. Seeing both girls looking up to her with questioning looks, the pseudo-elder sister grinned. You both know Naruto wouldn't approve of you fighting like this. So let's set some ground rules. Seeing as both girls were paying attention, knowing that if Big Sis Ayame said something Naruto would listen, and that also would be true if she decided to tank their chances. Use your minds, not your fists. I know ninja are a more physical bunch, but Naruto doesn't have a lot of people he calls friends, and seeing two friends fighting would crush him. 2. No tricks, at least on Naruto. 3. This is neutral ground. If you're all here, you're here as friends. Got it. Sitting and thinking about it for a moment, the more diplomatic Hyuga had no problem agreeing. That's fair, Ayame-san. She'd spar with her father for a week straight before giving up to Ino. Big Sis makes the rules. Ino could play the game however, and knew it better than the wallflower. This was going to be easy peasy. Smiling and nodding, Ayame motioned to the door, then off you go. Unless you'd like to order more without Naruto here. Seeing both girls eye each other before shaking their heads and leaving, Tuki leaned over to his daughter. Why is every ninja that comes through here so crazy? Shrugging, Ayame started collecting empty bowls. One think that's just ninja dad, I think they're all a little cracked. Down the road and making great time to the tower, Naruto was in high spirits. He got to have lunch with probably his two best friends outside of his team. Ayame seemed to like them, and they agreed to train with him. What more could today ask for? Bounding into the building and slowing only moderately at the stairs, the Uzumaki was before the Hokage's secretary after only a few moments. Naruto Uzumaki, answering the Hokage's summons. Shuffling some papers around before shooting the boy a bored look, the Chunin guard nodded before waving him through. Go on, he was expecting you a while ago. Missing the boy chuckle and bow as he walked away, the wondered if he could finally take lunch. Inside the office, closing the door behind him, Naruto was met with his Gigi leaning back into his chair, pipe in hand. With a groan and a weary smile, the Hokage made eye contact with Naruto. It's good to see you, my boy. Took you long enough to stop by. Feeling bad that he hadn't been able to check up on the boy. He could at least give him some good news today. Sorry, Gigi, Woke up and started training right away. Oh, Hinata-chan joined me today, and we had lunch too. Oh, and Ino-chan stopped by as well. And, chuckling and cutting the boy off, Sarutobi could always appreciate Naruto's energy. I'm sorry Naruto, as much as I would love for you to tell me all about your day, you are a bit late, and I have something to give you before continuing other duties. He was not looking forward to another council meeting. Did they really need his input in order to change a street name? Scratching his neck, Naruto nodded, sorry Gigi, so what's up? Reaching into his desk, the elder ninja pulled out a scroll and leaned forward to hand it to Naruto, who took it slowly and waited for an explanation. We forgot about it during your debriefing of your mission. But because you were the one to solely take down the demon brothers, their bounty also goes to you. So that's your extra payment. Be responsible with it. Sarutobi had watched the boy long enough to know he'd just buy more ramen with it at most. Boy saved quiet a lot of money that way. Already thinking of hitting the weapons shop. He needed scrolls and sealing ink. Thanks a lot Gigi, this'll help out a ton. Standing a little straighter, Naruto gave his Hokage a laid-back thumbs up. Nodding and waving the boy away with a smile, Sarutobi starting piling together his paperwork, go on now, and take care of yourself. Watching the boy turn and run off, he wondered briefly if he could get some time with his favorite book. Naruto however was already down the stairs and making a break for the outside world. Lunch with his friends and now extra pay, today was just about perfect. And he knew just what he needed to finish out such a great day. The weapons shop owner Higurashi-san had been talking about some explosive liquid the other day. Nitrous, well nitro something or other. And he just had to get some of it to play with. It was time to get back to his other favorite thing in the whole world. Several days and a much poorer Naruto later, all of the genin members of Team 7 were looking at their sensei with disgruntled looks. Though it was Sasuke who spoke up first, you wanna run that by us again? Naruto wiggled a finger in his ear, yeah I'm pretty sure I had something crazy in my ear just now. Cheeky brats. Kakashi was just showing them how proud he was of them. By signing them up for the next Chunin exams. I think the Chunin exams will be good for you. And plus, they're here in the village so you'll have the home field advantage, which is a big plus. Less likely for anything to happen to you. Sure, they hadn't graduated all that long enough, but they had already been through a lot. They had talent. And if they happened to actually make it further than say, Kurenai's team or Asuma's team, he'd win a pretty decent wager too. He wouldn't even consider his team not making it further than the other sensei's teams, because giving up his book was blasphemy. I mean, do you think we're ready? Sakura was trying to be a voice of reason here, thinking of possibly her own shortcomings for once. Shrugging, it was Sasuke who spoke up. I mean, it would be good experience. It's not like we're expected to make Chunin as rookies anyway. We could see what we have to look forward to. Naruto agreed and said as much, plus we could show off and you never know, wouldn't it be super cool if we did make Chunin first try? Ever the optimist, Naruto was all for full steam ahead. Passing the kids their information sheets, he nodded to them before getting ready to go, well there are your forms. Fill them out and meet at the designated location in 2 days. And don't get into any trouble. Looking pointedly at Naruto, the Junin left in a swirl of leaves. Looking at each other, the three got comfortable in their training ground, now willing to take it seriously now that their teacher had left. It was Naruto who held up a finger first, so do we really wanna do this? Sasuke nodded. I do, it'd be a good test of our skills to see how far we've come. And personally, to see how much further he had to go before reaching his older brother. Sakura made a show of sighing heavily before nodding. It'd be good for learn something new, plus, we do things as a team, so if you both wanna do it, then I'm in. She was trying to warm up to the blonde and not treat him as she had before. It was easier now that he wasn't asking her out all the time. Naruto nodded. So what do you think? Going into an unexpected situation, should we be worried about anything? Sakura shrugged. We have our pass codes in case someone tries to take our place or we get separated. Maybe spying options. If we're fighting against other teams, it'd be good to have some idea of how to spy on others and relay information. Book smart she was, that knowledge could be applied when she was focused. Shrugging, Naruto made several clones. I kinda have that covered. Sasuke saw where the mistake was, however. Remember the bridge. Unless you've already made them, you might be at a disadvantage. Remembering the blood on his face, that missing eye, no. They were alive and here now, that was what mattered. Sakura tapped a clone. Couldn't you transform a few? Turn them into pieces of your clothes, or maybe something small so it wouldn't be noticed moving around. Like a bug. Sure, you wouldn't get past an Aburame, but plenty of others would be fooled. Thinking about it, Naruto looked at all of this clones, about a dozen or so, before trying to plan it out. How about 6 of your transform into beetles, while 3 can transform into fake kunai and 3 are fake shuriken? Watching the clones nod and do as they were told. With puffs of smoke, the requested items and insects were on the ground before them all. All of the bugs quickly disappeared into his jacket, while he pocketed the kunai and shuriken into a special pocket. Funny, like this because they're so much smaller they should probably last much longer. I'll experiment with it today and tomorrow to get an idea for how long they can last this way. Thanks, Sakura. I never would have thought of using my clones this way. Nodding, Sakura had a superior smirk on her face, and that's why I'm the smart one and you're the explosion nut. Sasuke shrugged. Anything else we should maybe worry about? Sakura giggled. Being vastly outnumbered. I'd have to be dead, Sakura-chan. Being vastly overpowered. It was Sasuke with the thoughtful question. Naruto almost immediately wanted to boast that that wouldn't happen. But he too remembered Zabuza and Haku. I could use my clones to force some distance, help us regroup and decide to either fight or retreat. Sakura nodded. I wish I had the chakra to reliably use the Shunshin like you. It'd help. Sasuke stood up for her. I can't use it well either right now. So we'll have to rely on Naruto for distraction. It's what he's best at after all. I wanna be offended, but I can't be. Spending another half an hour thinking about possible scenarios and plans. The 3 Chunin hopefuls all stood at the sound of Naruto's stomach grumbling. Are you ever not hungry? Sakura was looking sidelong at the boy. Sasuke stuck between them as per their new norm. I train tons, of course I'm always hungry. That reminded him, he'd have to take the training seals off during the exam. Wouldn't do to be slowed down. Joking and laughing as they made it back to the village proper, it was a distracted Konohamaru that slammed into their pink teammate. Hey, watch where you're going. Why don't you watch it? With a forehead that big, it's amazing you don't fall over on your face. Giving the girl the stink eye, both of his friends and Naruto were trying to warn him. What was that? The low tone and growl were all Naruto needed to know. You better run, Konohamaru. Seeing the girl getting angry, the grandson of the Hokage did just that, turning tail and running as fast as his legs could carry him. Sakura was hot on his heels. You know, should we be worried she can't keep up with an academy student? Naruto was leaning over to Sasuke as they followed much slower and much further back. Depressed is a better word. Sighing at the skill of their third teammate, the reforming broodster wasn't sure how to help her get over her habits. You know, if you told her you liked girls who could fight, she'd probably start training more than me. Naruto had his hands behind his head, more comfortable than usual on the topic of the girl he used to like. Finally over that crush. Yeah, I guess so. Seems too dumb now, chasing after someone who barely knows you exist. Ow. Hey, watch where you're going, brat. How about I put you in your place? Not recognizing the voice, Sasuke and Naruto both blurred ahead, Naruto taking to the roof and scattering clones, and Sasuke stayed low and angled into the alley the kids had tried to hide in. Coming up and stopping in front of Sakura, Sasuke sized up the newcomer. Clad in a black bodysuit and purple face paint, the teenager was holding Konohamaru by the front of his shirt. Behind him and obscured slightly by a wrapped bundle on his back was a blonde girl with her hair up in 4 pigtails, wearing a black battle dress and fishnet stockings. A large war fan was on her back along with a deep frown. Leave him alone, Kankuro, we're not here to bully kids. Kid needs to learn some manners, why don't I break a finger or two and then we can go to Mari? A sadistic grin on the teen's face, Sasuke frowned but noticed movement along the rooftop. You might want to let the Hokage's grandson go, before something bad happens to you. Sasuke was now completely relaxed, waiting for the fun. Like I give a damn, kid shouldn't have run into me. Within a breath, many things changed at once. Konohamaru was forcibly used as a kawarimi focus. Replaced by a much larger and grinning black and orange-clad blonde who immediately hugged the face-painted teen. Ever meet an exploding clone? While the clone itself couldn't explode, he was certainly covered in enough exploding tags to make up for it. Kankuro. Wait, Tamari didn't get to finish her sentence, a very sharp blade held to her neck. When did he get behind her? Threatening such an important person just days before the Chunin exams. That's plucky. Naruto's tone was cold and for one reason. No one was going to threaten his friends, especially not the kids. Finding themselves in a standoff, a third voice came from the tree. I'm sorry for my siblings, please release them, I'll have them disciplined when we return to our hotel. We're here for the Chunin exams. The last of the 3-man sand team, Sabaku no Gaara, had his arms crossed while his ever-present sand gourd was vibrating slightly. Sakura stepped forward now, signaling to Naruto that they had Konohamaru. Please remember, your guests here. Please don't make trouble. Watching the glacial blonde remove his sword from Temari's neck before jumping away, the grinning clone poofed himself out of existence. Kankuro released his breath that he had been holding, before puffing himself up to give them all a piece of his mind. Kankura, enough, or I'll kill you. That froze the older boy in his place. More than a little unnerved about the dynamic between the 3 teammates, Sasuke stepped forward. You, redhead, what's your name? Sabaku no Gaara. And yours? The blonde too. Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. We'll be waiting for you in the exams. A cold grin on his face, Gaara nodded. You better be. I'm looking forward to having worthy opponents. All 3 siblings left in a swirl of sand after that. Turning to each other after Naruto rejoined them from the high ground, they all had to wonder. The day was bright with a clear sky and warm winds that welcomed all the visitors to the village hidden within the leaves. And today was a special one as a certain lazy Junin's team readied themselves as they made there. So are we all full on kunai and shuriken? Hi Sakura, we're good. Sasuke was patting his own pouches just in case. You got your transformed clones and plenty of sealing ink just in case. Pinkett now turned to the black and orange blonde. Yup, and some extra stuff just in case we need a big distraction. Said blonde had a huge grin on his face. Not everything can be solved with explosions, Naruto. Sasuke's deadpan tone had Naruto chuckling. Nonsense, that just means you haven't made a big enough explosion yet. As all 3 reached the front of the testing building, it was Sakura who stepped ahead of the boys and turned to face them with a fist held out. I know I'm not the combat type like you two, but I think we're a great team. Let's watch each other's backs, do our best, and come back alive. Bumping a fist with the girl much to her barely held back delight, Sasuke had his patented smirk on his face. Let's do better than that. With all these veterans, let's at least make it to the finals. Show 'em we mean business. Naruto bumped his fist into his teammate's own, Mismatch's eyes switching between them both. Screw that, let's aim to win this thing. We're way too awesome to do anything else. His friends shaking their heads, the team made their way inside. Finding no one and making their way up the first set of stairs, they found a large crowd of attendees arguing with that looked like guards to the exam room. There were plenty of teams there, including a few Konoha, and Sasuke was ready to intervene. But it was Sakura who held him back. Keeping her voice low, she nodded back to the hallway. The exam is supposed to be on the third floor, not the second. Common, let's not bother with this. Seeing Sasuke think it over and then nod, they took the hallway to wrap around the building and take a second set of stairs, reaching the third floor without further incident, and were surprised to see their sensei waiting for them. Holding up a hand in greeting, the masked ninja was all smiles. I see you made it. I'm glad. If you hadn't come all together, I would have had to send you back home. All three looked at each other before turning back to the sensei, Sasuke taking the lead. You're the one that taught us. We're a team, either we all go, or no one goes. Nodding with pride, Kakashi stepped aside. Then good luck, and I'll be seeing you again soon. The three genin walked by their sensei, each offering him either a salute or a smile. And then they were inside the exam room, and greeted by the disgruntled faces of older genin and out-of-village teams. Naruto and Sasuke unconsciously stepped slightly ahead of Sakura, casually keeping a hand near his weapon pouch while the other twitched his fingers in anticipation. But, when no attack came, instead they were met with more of their own rookie genin. Yo-ho, forehead. Long time no see. Ino made her appearance, dragging Shikamaru and Choji behind her. Almost didn't think you'd make it. Rolling her eyes and crossing her arms, the last member of Team 7 scoffed. If they let you in here, pig, then we for sure would be ready to go. Try not to get in the way. Another team, Hinata, Kiba and the quiet Shino made their way over. Kiba all grins and swagger. Look what the dog dragged in. What happened to your Idobi? Sasuke have to come save your SS or something? Not having kept up with his former classmate and ignoring an annoyed Hinata, he still fist bumped the blonde. Oh, you know, took on some missing ninja, learned some neat tricks. Can't wait to show ya. While Naruto was working on being actually confident in his own skills. Having Kiba rib him like that cut a little too close to home. Turning to the boy, it was Hinata who bowed. Sorry Naruto-kun, I didn't know if it was okay to tell them about your mission or not. I wanted to ask you first but hadn't had the chance. Seeing the boy's face soften, he nodded. No sweat, feel free to boast about me all you want, Hinata-chan. Oi oi, you lot are too loud. Can't you read the room at all? Walking up to the group of 9 was an older Konoha ninja. Wearing glasses which he adjusted and have silver hair, he stood over them all by a bit. Who are you to tell us what to do? Shikamaru was half paying attention now, which for him was more than enough. My name is Kabuto, and I'm a veteran of these exams, why I've participated several times so far. Though I've failed each one. Wondering why they would listen to an apparent serial failure, it was Sasuke who piped up next, so you must have some useful information at least. Wanna help out your Kahai? Pretending to mull it over, Kabuto pulled out a set of blank cards. Well, these are my info cards. Locked away with my chakra, I have information on just about every ninja currently participating in these exams. Just give me a name and I should be able to help you out. Kiba worked his way forward again. Okay then, let's go with Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki. Singling out both the best in the class and the worst, he wanted to see where he stood between the two. Add in Sabaku no Gaara. Sasuke lifted a finger, wondering why Kiba was so interested in his team. Nodding, Kabuto shuffled his cards. It takes a little fun out of it if you have their full name, but I got M. Pulling one out and flipping it around, the older boy read from it, Sasuke Uchiha, sole heir to the Uchiha clan. Member of Team 7 under Hitaki Kakashi. Multiple D rank, but there is a C rank turned a rank. Special abilities include an unlocked Dojutsu, the Sharingan. Shuffling through the cards again, he pulled forth another. Naruto Uzumaki, apparently the last of his clan as well and an orphan since birth. No special skills mentioned, same team as Sasuke Uchiha and completed the same mission, turned a rank. Unknown damage to left eye changed its color. Boring. One last shuffle and he pulled forth a third card, Sabaku no Gaara, son of the Kazekage and leader of his team. Several C, B, and a rank missions, where he has always returned without a scratch on him. Obviously a foe to be concerned about. Stashing his cards away with a sigh, Kabuto felt like ribbing some of the foreign teams, not like the newcomers from the Sound Village. Nothing of value on those teams. Overhearing the boy and growling, one boy wearing gauntlets was ready to make Kabuto eat his words. Wanna say that to my face, you leaf trash? Come get some then. He and his team ready to start a brawl. They were interrupted by an explosion from the front of the room. All of you better sit down and shut up. Your proctor is here, and if I see any fighting without my go ahead, I'll toss you out myself. The large bandana wearing man was both large and loud, quickly cowing anyone thinking of speaking up against him. Now Chunin assistants are going to come around and give you numbers. Those numbers are seats. Take your places, we will begin the first round. Naruto, Sakura, and Sasuke all nodded to each other before allowing themselves to be led away to their seats. It was a few minutes of everyone getting situated and settled before the now named Ibiki listed off their rules. It's real simple. 1 point for everything incorrect answer. 2 points for every time you get caught cheating. If you have no points left, you and your team are out. When there are 10 minutes left, I'll be asking a 10th question. No talking. You ready? Don't care. You have 1 hour. Begin. Naruto had been sat next to Hinata and some no-name guy he'd never seen before. Grinning at the flushed girl, he focused on the task at hand. After writing his name and thinking the rules over, he didn't have much of a clue on how to go from here. A quick glance showed that these questions were way out of his league for the most part. Well, except for one about explosive note yield. He knew that one. Writing out his answer, he took a subtle look around and noticed just what everyone else was getting up to. A floating sand eye, someone using mirrors, and was Kiba talking to his dog. So everyone else figured out to cheat was the way to go, huh? Well, he could play that game too. Making a mental command to a couple of his bug-transformed clones, he sat back and waited. He could see Hinata's furtive glances at him from the corner of his eye, but he decided to ignore her for now since he didn't want to get them both in trouble for now, trying to reassure her that he was fine. Candidate 41, you're out. You and your team are to leave at once. A Chunin called out, escorting a 3-man cell from stone out of the room. And it was there that Naruto sat back and relaxed for a bit, listening to teams get called and removed. While he waited for one of his clones to dispel, which after a few minutes one did so, providing him answers from Sakura's test, who he figured for sure wouldn't need to cheat on this test. Quickly jotting his answers down with a pleased smile on his face, he finally could relax for real while crossing his hands behind his head. Man clones ruled. Fiddling with his pencil and waiting it out, Naruto was brought out of his half-daze as Ibiki drew everyone's attention again. Alright. This is your 10-minute warning, and with it, we have your final question. But there's a catch. Take the question and get it wrong and you're out for good, never to take the Chunin exams again. Or you can back out and try again next with a weaker proctor. Make your decision before your time is up. Naruto went back to ignoring the proctor and the test in general. Kakashi-sensei had told them to treat it like a mission. Well, you didn't always get choose what mission you could and couldn't take. Sometimes you just had to roll the dice, and live with the consequences of that. Knowing that his teammates would be of the same mind, or at least Sakura would follow Sasuke's lead, the blonde decided to relax. If he had paid attention to the heiress next to him, he would have noticed how she herself was taking a small confidence boost from her relaxed crush. But around them, candidates were beginning to crack and drop like flies. By the end of the 10 minutes, more than half of the teams had dropped out and Ibiki was grinning. Well, how about it? Are you lot sure you want to take this question? Fancy being stuck genin forever? Finally getting bored and needed to speak up, Naruto slammed a hand on his desk. Oh, come on already. Either give the question or don't, but don't waste out time. I know if I fail I'll just have to be the first genin to Hokage ever. Believe that, you old goat. Frowning and looking directly at the blonde with odd eyes, Ibiki went silent for a moment. Though after a bit and with a savage grin he started laughing. Good Cammy, you've got some stones on you, kid. Well, don't worry. Everyone left here passes the test. Ignoring the various outcries and protests from everyone left, Ibiki removed his headband with bandana and began to explain the reasoning behind this information gathering test. How sometimes a mission could and would be compromised because intel could be lost or leaked. That you didn't get to choose not to take the mission at all unless you wanted to be a traitor and leave your village. It was a hard lesson some ninja sometimes had to learn the hard way, and using his scarred and tortured head as an aid, he showed he was living proof. Before he could go further, however, a large mass broke through one of the windows. Spinning and launching kunai at the floor and ceiling, a banner unfurled next to a grinning and scantily clad woman. The banner proclaiming her as S*XY and single, the newest Jonin to grace them, was pointing in the air. Your next Proctor Anko Mitarashi is here. Leaning from behind the banner, Ibiki sighed, his carefully built-up aura of menace suddenly gone. You're early, again. Well, you're too slow and I was bored. Looking back among the genin, adjusting her jacket just so and relishing in the attention, she scoffed, too many passed again. We have a talented group this time, what can I say? Turning back to the genin, Anko had a full-blown smirk. Well, I'll be knocking those numbers down to less than half. Listen up. Everyone meet up at training ground 44. You've got 15 minutes. Seeing no one move, her eye began to twitch. I think I made a mess, some poor soul muttered out. She is pretty hot. If you don't get moving, I'm gonna start launching kunai. Anko was back in a good mood as every team was forming up and out the windows in a flash. Turning back to Ibiki, she shrugged. Anyone I should be worried about? No one you shouldn't expect already. Waving a salute, Anko was out the window as well. 10 minutes and several panting teams later, Anko was standing before the assembled group. Holding up a sheet of paper, she was ready to begin explaining. Listen up. Behind me is my own personal playground, affectionately nicknamed the Forest of Death. Inside you will find plenty of local floral and fauna that are just dying to keep you company. Your team will be given one of two scrolls, one of heaven or one of earth. Your task is to take another team's scroll and make it to the center of the forest to the exam tower within 5 days. Any questions? A plump hand rose from the crowd. What about food? Anko's grin only grew. Why, the forest will provide. Either it'll feed you, or you'll feed it. Motioning to a tent nearby while the gathered teams murmured to each other, she held up a piece of paper. Everyone will be provided a consent for that they must sign before being given a scroll. The form is due to release the village from liability if you should do. There are no rules inside the forest, so some advice. She paused while looking them all over. Don't die. Team 7 signed their forms and handed them in, retrieving a scroll of heaven for their trouble, which Sakura immediately handed over to Naruto with a nod from Sasuke. Sealing it away on a storage seal marked on his left should that he could just reach without taking off his jacket, he was suddenly reminded to release his weight seals. Doing so and feeling the associated seal paper burn away, he felt both the restriction on his chakra and his body lifted. He didn't realize the seals were drawing enough chakra for him to notice it, but he'd have to look into that later. Seeing the blonde moving with a new bounce in his step, Sakura sighed. Do we even want to know what crazy seal you just released? Shrugging, Naruto followed behind Sasuke as they found their gate and waited for the start of the test. Nothing crazy, just a waiting seal. Something for training that I forgot about. He bounced in place and waved his arms this way and that. He felt like he could fly at the moment. And yet somehow I just know you overdid it. Sakura wanted to smack the oblivious blonde for his antics sometimes, but let this one go. Naruto was a training freak after all, so at least this was somewhat expected. Anything else experimental we should be concerned about? Tilting his head from side to side in thought, Naruto donned a foxy grin and gave his friends a thumbs up. If you see me running full speed away from something, either smoking or something I just threw, you'd better just start running with me, no questions. Sasuke sighed. That's just our standard procedure now, you maniac. Training with you has clued us into your nonsense. Explosions are life. Explosions are going to get you killed. But it'll be flashy as hell. Hearing a buzzer and their gate open up, all three looked into the darkness of the forest, and it was Sakura who punched both boys in their arms. Let's go, you can argue about who's a bigger idiot after we get to the tower. I don't want to spend any more time than I need to in this shitty place. Jumping into the trees, Sasuke and Naruto high-fived and followed after her. How long do you think it'll take before she figures out we do it on purpose? Give it a few years, she's book smart, but too trusting. Catching up to the long-haired girl and flanking her, Naruto immediately set about making a few dozen clones who immediately set off into the trees. So what's the idea? Hunt down some teams right away and get our scroll or make our way closer to the tower. Naruto was now fully in battle mode, and the others were learning that this Naruto was much better at on-the-fly plans. Sakura twirled over a branch and launched herself a little higher. For the hell of it, given our manpower advantage, we should try out hunting while heading toward the tower. If we don't get a scroll by then, we'll hide out and wait. Sasuke as well agreed, plus if we get to the tower early we'll have an advantage against the other teams. Of course, again, if we don't get a scroll first. Naruto nodded and they continued on in silence for the next hour, casually making a serpentine path towards the tower. Eventually Naruto frowned and motioned ahead of them, waving three fingers. Rain team ahead, I've got a group of clones on M, wanna take M out? Sasuke nodded. Do it, try for non-lethal please. Naruto nodded and created a clone that immediately dispersed, slightly confusing Sakura. What was that one for? Naruto poked his head. Sending simple mental commands isn't too bad. You know, go here or stop there. But making a battle plan takes more work, so it's easier to make a new clone with my memories that then disperses and sends the information to all of my clones. Nodding and understanding how it worked now, Sakura fell behind the two boys while producing a kunai in her right hand. As Naruto dropped down to the ground level, weaving through the trees and vines, Sasuke and Sakura followed after him to come upon a group of struggling and hog-tied rain genin. 4 clones were surrounding them, who all saluted Naruto before jumping back up into the tree cover. Where'd you get the rope? Trade secret. Baka. Knocking the other ninja out and rifling in their pockets and packs, it was Sasuke who came upon another heaven scroll. Wrong one, but we could keep it as a bargaining chip if we run into a leaf team. Sounds good to me. Naruto was already looking around and scanning the trees. Sakura sighed as she helped Sasuke drag the 3 genin against a tree and leaned them up against it. They'd be pissed when they awoke, but that was the exam. Let's get moving then, we still have a lot of daylight after all. Both boys nodded and they were quickly back into the trees and onto their meandering path toward the tower. Naruto frowned and twitched for a moment, drawing the other two's attention, and he mimed a fist-crushing something. That Gaara kid, he can control sand. Crushed one of my clones with it. Sakura nodded. Being from the sand village, that has to be an amazing skill to have. Better steer clear of them. Yeah, having the memories of getting crushed once is more than enough. But Naruto didn't get to finish as a large burst of wind knocked him away from his teammates. Naruto. Almost instantly they were set upon by a grass ninja, who was going after Sasuke like it was his only goal in life. Naruto, however, was trying to right himself and return back to his team. Some was trying to split them up, and he was going to show them why that was a bad idea. Something large hissing at him, however, had him looking over his shoulder. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. A snake easily 3 times as tall as he was already had its mouth open wide, ready to swallow him whole. I blame the Tem. Disappearing from sight, Naruto vanished into the maw of the jungle predator. The small clearing was quiet while the snake swallowed and looked around lazily for its next meal, before something stung from inside its gullet. Retching once, twice, before bloody foam began to escape its mouth, the reptile began to thrash and twist into the trees and dirt while obviously in pain. And just as suddenly as it had swallowed its easy meal, a black and gleaming sword carved its way out from its soft underbelly. With furious motion, the sword twisted and turned several different ways before, in a shower of blood and gore, Naruto burst free from the snake's belly, landing on a knee while holding the sword over his shoulder. Standing and shaking himself free of snake guts and saliva, Naruto pouted. Well, no one saw that, so maybe getting eaten by a snake can be my own secret. Man, I'm just racking up once in a lifetime events here. Pulling his sword to look at it, the balance throwing him off a bit, he noticed it was much longer than before. The tip was still missing, looking like the start of the circular cutout was just beginning. Trying to puzzle it out, Naruto decided he didn't have the time right now. Readying it on this back with a roll of bandages, he crossed his fingers. Taju, Kage Bushin no Jutsu. Sasuke was already panting and aching from where this extremely skilled ninja had him on the ropes. Even with his dojutsu active, he was having a hard time keeping up at all. And the enemy nin hit like Kakashi-sensei. Frowning as he saw a clone of Naruto flit behind a tree, Sasuke relented that this was indeed an opponent they should run from. So this is the vaulted Uchiha. I'm not impressed, but I guess I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up leftovers. Quickly squashing down the rage that fired up in his chest, Sasuke leapt from one tree to another, twisting in midair and launching several shuriken at his attacker. Catching them by surprise, the trailing ninja wire locked them against the tree Sasuke had just fled. Without missing a beat, Sasuke molded as much chakra as he could and let loose this technique, Kaden, Gokaku no Just You. The larger than normally fire ball slammed into the ninja following the ninja wire. Sasuke pumped more chakra into the technique until he was sure the other nin was down and out before releasing the seal and panting for breath. However, that was moot as a sandaled foot slammed into his gut and tossed him to the ground. Oh my, struck a nerve did I? Oh well. The nin's voice slowly changing as he kept talking. Sasuke and a freaking out Sakura looked on as their face was literally peeling away. With a yank, the skin was pulled away to show a pale-skinned man with purple tattoos on his face. Who are you? Do you even want our scroll or not? Sakura's mind was racing. The nin hadn't asked for the scroll and they didn't seem to be with a team. The fact that they were so much better than Sasuke was also something bothering her. Scroll? What use would I have with that? I'm just here to test out little Sasuke-chan, and I'm finding him very lacking. Ripping the rest of his disguise away, revealing a dusty tunic with an purple obi rope tied around his waist, the intruder was licking his lips with an unnaturally long tongue. Let's see if we can spur some quick improvement too. He didn't get to finish as a fist connected with his face and launched him away. The real Naruto landing in the middle of his teammates, he had both by the shoulder. What do ya say? Time to go? Sasuke nodded, pride losing over survival this once. This guy is definitely not a genin. Something is majorly wrong with him. As one, all three turned and booked it. Having to dodge another clone that lunged for him and dispersing it, Orochimaru frowned. You can't run from me for long, kiddies. However, he had to dodge yet another clone that attempted to grab him, dispersing it with a knife hand to the neck. Then another dodge from a kunai with an exploding tag. From there as was a running battle, the older ninja trying to catch up to the genin while clones delayed him however they could. At first he applauded the boy for smart use of the clones, but after 5 minutes of this he was beyond annoyed with them. Any longer and he wouldn't have time to give Sasuke his seal, which was out of the question. Waving back and launching several wads of mud at a group of clones, Orochimaru missed one that had just materialized from behind him. How? What Naruto hadn't paid attention to in his training, was exactly why the Shunshin wasn't good to battle. Simply put, the chakra needed to move a human body was very noticeable, and any nin worth their salt would see it coming from a mile away. However, clones had no real mass, and as such needed very little chakra to properly Shunshin. That also meant, anyone looking out for the technique wouldn't be able to detect it unless they were a sensor type, because it was like looking for particles of light at that point. So when the lone clone shunshined behind Orochimaru and successfully latched on, those memories were going to be invaluable to Naruto later. It's been a blast, asshole. This clone just armed with the specially made bracelet was grinning as they both exploded. Tumbling in a hasty kawarimi, still smoking slightly, Orochimaru was now on the back pedal as multiple clones tried to perform the same feat. 3 appeared directly under him with hands raised already, and that explosion sent him tumbling into a completely different direction to land in a heap on the forest floor. Twisting to his feet with a murderous glint in his eye, a slightly charred Orochimaru looked through the trees. "Oh, I'm going to enjoy killing you." Several clones materializing around and above him, each one armed with several vials of a slightly yellow and brown liquid, and one of them was giving him the finger. Doubt that, Tem. The resulting conflagration of light and sound rocked the very earth. Running as fast as they could, shielded by a brace of clones, while 2 more clone groups each with appropriate copies of Sakura and Sasuke all peeled away from each other and cut their roots over each other's before breaking away completely. The real group were quick to find a hole and essentially bury themselves in it. Panting but slowly catching their breath, Naruto commanded his clones to conceal themselves and wait for orders. While they hadn't heard or felt anything since that last major explosion, the team still held their breath as they waited. After an agonizing half an hour passed them by, they finally allowed themselves to relax in their hidey hole. Who the hell was that freak? He was waxing you pretty good there, Sasuke. Too tired to argue, Sasuke chose instead to give the blonde his finger estimation of his IQ. Well, whoever that was, we need to stay far away from him. Naruto nodded. No problem there. He's either in a training ground-sized crater in pieces, or at least hurt enough for someone else to deal with him. He was definitely using that nitroglycerin stuff more from now on. And I told you all problems could be solved with more explosions. Hi, much boom, very safe now. Thank you, Lord Naruto. Sasuke was laying on the sarcasm thick, but he was happy he was alive. Ah yes, please, praise me and my explosions more, it's my fuel. Just what we need, a Naruto with an even bigger ego. Sakura was smiling all the same, happy that for the moment at least they were safe. Twisting his head quickly in a different direction, Naruto's eyes were wide. You've gotta be kidding me. Yup. I take it back, you're still an idiot. Naruto nodded without any other reaction. One of the decoy teams is down, same guy. Was able to get out his name though. Orochimaru. For some reason he tried to bite your neck. Well, the clones. You get it. Naruto couldn't remember how many fake teams he had made, but hopefully it'd be enough. Wincing as one particularly unlucky clone slammed head to tits into their exam proctor and paid the price, he knew he was going to be feeling this in the morning. Sakura looked over to the slightly shaking boy before reaching into her small pack and handing him a ration bar. Just like we planned, zone out and concentrate on your clones, we got things here. The hole they found themselves in was barely big enough for the 3 of them as it was, and the entrance would force anyone to have to crawl on the belly like they had to get in. Nodding and scarfing the bar down, Naruto laid back against his sword and closed his eyes. I'll try directly the guy either away from us or maybe to that sand team. See how he deals with Gaara. After that he was quiet, eyes moving rapidly behind his eyelids. It's creepy when he does that. Sakura shrugged. It's the best way for his to coordinate with a massive amount of clones. How many do you think he made? Sasuke shrugged, rubbing a sore shoulder. Bet it was close to 1,000 with how depleted his chakra feels. Bet he didn't even notice it himself. They had come up with this plan with one big drawback. Naruto making too many clones would either have them run free uncontrolled, or he'd have to pretty much shut his main body down so he could give detailed mental orders. He'd only done it once before in training, but this was a real field test that was holding up so far. So, he said Orochimaru, didn't he? Name ring any bells? Sasuke was looking at Sakura directly now. Thinking about it and paling as her mind came to an impossible conclusion, she nodded slowly. One man comes to mind. One of the Leaf's greatest defectors. Orochimaru of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary ninja trained by the Hokage himself. Looking at Sasuke, the girl's heart dropped, and he said he was after you. Leaning back against tree roots, Sasuke nodded, gotta be my eyes. I'm good, but I'm just a genin. So he's someone to stay far away from. They both nodded and looked at the busy blonde beside them. Guess we're here for the night. Better settle in, no fire. Sakura was already trying to get comfortable. I'm having a clone cover the entrance with bushes and branches while some others set traps. We should be good here. Not opening his eyes, he fell deeper into his concentration. It's so creepy when he does that. Team 7 could admit that the night within the confines of their tree hole wasn't too bad. It was still pretty warm and humid, so blankets weren't needed, but trying to sleep on a tree root or dirt was not the most comfortable thing. Though as Sakura made her way out first, pushing aside the brush cover that Naruto's clone had put there to conceal them, she stretched and smiled, oh it feels good to be out of there. Think we lost him? Sasuke was next, doing his own stretches and looking around and up into the trees, sure hope so. I'd rather not have my eyes cut out by that freak. The last and slightly uncoordinated member of their team dragged himself out, standing with a little help from Sasuke. Naruto was looking around with a dazed look, I think I overdid it last night. Sakura was almost instantly in his face, looking into his eyes and turning his head left and right, how long did you stay up commanding your clones? Getting a noncommittal answer, Sakura watched his slowly adjusting pupils and sighed, just great. Sasuke walked up, intrigued, what's wrong with him? Motioning to the blonde who seemed very out of it, Sakura kept him standing, just some mental fatigue. Guess it's one of the big dangers of using the shadow clones so much. I don't know what he did last night, but looks like it pushed him. Old man is gone, gone, way away. Both of the normal members of Team 7 watched their teammate and had a foreboding feeling, and it was Sasuke who came out of it first. Maybe we should shove him back in the hole, rest for another day. Sakura nodded, probably the best idea, he's no use at all like this. However, before either teammate could think to help him back into their hole to rest, Naruto suddenly had his sword in his hand, held up to the sky, enemies coming. Gonna get 'em, gonna get. Sword crashing into the ground, from some distance away they all began to hear explosions and screaming. Well, looks like enough of him is still there. Sorta. Sakura gave him points for that. A combat-ready but loopy and quiet Naruto. I don't know if that's an improvement. Not even a second after finishing his thought, 3 bodies were dumped into the clearing with them. All were wearing sound headbands and odd black and gray camo-styled clothes. Though they all were smoking slightly, they were groaning and moaning in pain, so still alive at least. Walking over with an uneven gait, it was a grinning Naruto that stood over the trio, sword raised high, tell, what you want before heads go flying. Blue and purple eyes were practically glowing in the early morning light. Dosu had remembered their orders from an angry Orochimaru. Kill the blonde and test the Uchiha. Supposed to be easy. Getting blindsided by exploding clones and then set into a gauntlet of traps and even more explosions was not what he had in mind for the day. And now, the same psychotic blonde looked ready to kill them all. Wait. You want our scroll, right? We have one, an earth scroll. Take it and let us go. Tilting his head from side to side, Naruto nodded, but if anything his grin got even wider. Sound team no tem. Orochi Tem had a sound headband, oh. Voice clearing up for a moment, Naruto suddenly gained some focus, how about I just kill you and loot your corpses? Hooking her arm around the boy's neck and tossing him back, launching him near perfectly into the hole they had stuck themselves in, Sakura sighed, go take a nap, a real one. Sasuke was already replacing Naruto, kunai at the ready, yeah you might as well hand over that scroll. 'Cause once he's out, his clones will be more free to do whatever they want. Looking up at the Uchiha survivor, Dosu looked past him at another dozen copies of the blonde. Though they didn't have copies of the sword, They all had the same crazed grin on their faces. And he did not want to deal with that explosion maniac again. Reaching into a pouch and tossing it at Sasuke's feet, Dosu was dragging Kin and Zaku away as if their lives depended on it. Looking up as all of the clones dispelled a moment later, Sasuke leaned down and picked up the scroll. Should we be concerned that a fatigued Naruto is apparently a super murderous powerhouse? Sakura shrugged. Odd conditions of the exam. Consider how much energy he usually has, and I doubt we'll have this issue again any time in the future. Shaking off the feeling that she just jinxed them, she focused on the scroll in Sasuke's hands. Wanna carry him and we can make for the tower. Sasuke thought it over for a minute, run through the forest with an unconscious Naruto and head straight for a possibly trap-laden tower. Or rest bored out of their minds at least for another couple of hours, but make the trip with everyone somewhat rest and conscious. Easy. Let's wait, I could use some more sleep too. And the trip will be a lot easier not having to lug that idiot along. Nodding and turning back to their tree, Sakura did have to concede that point. Rubbing her shoulder, just how much did that kid weigh anyway? Or was it the sword? The way he swung it around make her think it was pretty light, but tossing him like that took everything in her to do. But Team 7 did the same thing and resituated themselves in their cave to take another few hours to rest. And it was as noon was approaching that Team 7 found themselves up and moving through the trees again, all better rested and a more awake Naruto denying anything that the other two were telling him. That sounds like something my clones would do, not me. But aren't your clones, you. Sakura was trying to use logic to get through to the boy, poor girl. Well yeah, when I make them, but after that they can go off the rails pretty fast. Looking over at Sasuke, Naruto made his own conclusion. If Sasuke took out a team while I was asleep, you could just say that. You don't have to make me feel better about sleeping through it. Sasuke rolled under a low branch before flipping back up and next to Naruto. We're telling you, it was all you. You were out of it like we'd never seen before. Try not to make that many clones again, okay? Sasuke didn't want to consider what would happen if he made too many clones now. Never mind Naruto running out of chakra, but the idea of a Naruto with less mental roadblocks and a giant sword just did not sit well with him. Hi, no 1,000 clone rush again. Got it. As one, all three dropped to the ground and looked up at the tower now before them. Well, that was quick. Taking a mental note and noticing that he did not have any more clones wandering about, Naruto nodded. I'm all done out there, nothing new to report. Leading the others and walking into the door before them, Sasuke was ready to be inside and past this portion of the exam. Crazy Sannin, murderous other teams, yeah no. Give him Kakashi-sensei being late all the time. Coming up to a riddle on the door, Sasuke read it aloud before turning to the others. He shrugged. What do ya think? Naruto was instant. That it's stupid and I have enough explosive tags to make this door open. Sakura sighed and bopped the boy before holding out her hand to him. Scroll, now. Ignoring the grumbling blonde, Sakura turned to Sasuke, the other one too. When do you get so bossy? You wanna be the Naruto Wrangler? Scroll suddenly appearing in her outstretched hand, Sakura smirked at her crush. Thought so. You both know I'm still here, right? Though he handed over their 2 heaven scrolls, he was summarily ignored. Looking both scrolls over and remembering the rules, Sakura unfurled them both and tossed them on the ground in front of them. In a small explosion of smoke, there stood their sensei. You. Good time too, faster than any other Leaf team. Sasuke sighed with relief. Good, cause this whole thing has soused. Seeing their sensei raise an eyebrow, it was Sakura that pushed forward, silencing Naruto, who was about to begin boasting. Common sensei, we have a lot to tell you. And it involves legendary ninja. Legendary ninja. Pulling the hand from his mouth, Naruto bounced back into his sensei's view as the door behind them all began to open. I blew up a Sannin. What? B. The remaining 3 days of the exam found Team 7 resting and waiting on the rest of the teams to come in. Naruto had immediately passed out in their room after their sensei had made sure none of them were injured. Sasuke had given a more detailed account of the initial encounter, including details about Orochimaru's appearance and fighting style, though he didn't have much insight there. While Sakura made use of her time by for once training what she could within their room, their time in the forest showing her that she was far behind the others. But at the end of those 3 days they found themselves in a large arena-style room surrounded by the other teams and senseis while listening to their Hokage, and then the exam proctor give a lecture and the announcement that they would be having preliminary matches. Following their sensei into the stands to wait, Sakura turned to Naruto, "Are you sure you finally got enough rest?" Naruto waved her off. 3 days with full night's sleep was perfect. "I still think you both are overreacting." Sasuke shook his head and names began to swirl on the board above them all. "I wish there was a way you could see our memories. It was kind of freaky." Looking up as Kakashi poked his shoulder, the boy sighed, "Guess I'm up." Sakura cheered him on while Naruto leaned against the railing. "Who's Yoroi?" Sakura joined him at the rail. "He's one of the Leaf guys on the same team as Kabuto, the guy who quit." Seeing Naruto gain a look of understand, they both watched as the proctor explained the rules and then jump away. Well timed, as well as Sasuke already prepped his favored fireball and had launched it at his opponent. Yoroi was caught flat-footed by the blast, being knocked away and unconscious before he hit the ground. "Well, that was quick. It's Sasuke. I may rib the Tem, but he's got skill." "Ah, you guys have a bromance going on." "Sakura, I've never done it, but I will hit a girl today if you keep it up." Giggling as it was usually the boys teasing her, she watched as the board set to scrambling again while Sasuke returned to join them. Sighing with a bored look and joining them at the rail on Naruto's other side, the fast-acting Uchiha had a frown on his face. "That should have been harder." "That's what she said. I loathe you." "Oh, shut up you two, the next match is up." Looking down into the arena, one of the Sound Ninja and Shino from Team 8 were facing off. Naruto was already back to being bored. "Shino's got this, that guy is weak as hell." Sakura, however, had a different mind. "Your sense of power scale is broken. He has to have some skill to be here." Almost literally stuffing his hand in his mouth to keep himself from quipping about her being here, Naruto had to think about the almost complete turnaround about his feelings surrounding his crush. Shaking it off and watching as Shino used his bugs to great effect, keeping away from Zaku's attacks before tagging him with enough bugs to render his weapons useless. See? No contest. Seeing Zaku start to rage, Sasuke frowned. He wouldn't. Watching the boy blow his own arms to bits in an attempt to continue the match, Sakura nodded. He would. Watching as medics came and tended to Zaku before carting him away, Naruto turned to his sensei. "Who do you think has the best shot of making it all the way to the end?" While Kakashi wanted to immediately say his cute students, of course, he watched all three of them turn to him. They had been taking this seriously, though with some humor from the get-go. They deserved some truth. "While I wanted you all to make it through to the final round, you have to put up with some real monsters here. Including some veteran genin, both from the Leaf and most notably from the Sand. I still think you all have good chances, but it'll be hard." Sakura nodded. "So Gaara and anyone from Team 10. Naruto nodded as one of Gaara's teammates was now fighting in the ring against Kabuto's last teammate who stayed in to fight, Tsurugi, if the board was right. "Don't they have a Hyuga on their team?" Sasuke nodded. "Think so, surprised you know about them." Naruto casually dropped a bomb on them all. "Oh yeah, Hinata-chan trains with me from time to time. She's told me a bit about them. Sounds like a family of sticks in the mud if you ask me." Sakura and Sasuke both started at each other from behind Naruto. The girl had worked up the nerve to talk to the boy and train with him. Sasuke sighed and handed over some Ryo to a smirking Sakura. Never underestimate a girl's intuition. "What was that?" Naruto looked over at Sakura in confusion. Nothing. So you train with Hinata-san sometimes?" Nodding and watching Tsurugi do something freaky with his body and wrap up an apparently weakened Kankuro, Naruto explained the few days since they had been back from their mission to Wave. "Yeah, her and Ino-chan trained with me a few times, really motivated too. It's crazy to think Ino-chan was just as obsessed as you were. Watching Kankuro reveal himself from the bundle of clothes that had been tossed aside while the wrapped-up one turned out to be a puppet, Naruto mentally noted both him and Tsurugi as the weird ones of the exam. Blinking in surprise while ignoring their sensei cry manly tears, Sakura tried to make sense of what her teammate just said. You said Hinata and Ino train with you. Watching the noodly boy be loaded onto a stretcher and the next match be decided, Naruto nodded. Yeah, and we got lunch a couple of times too. They've been fun to hang out with. You two should join us sometimes. Steadfastly deciding not to get in the middle of that at all, Sakura instead nodded. Sure, maybe one day. Yeah, if what was going on what she thought was going on, she wasn't going anywhere near Naruto after team missions. Sasuke however didn't see the issue if both Ino and Hinata were involved, could be Fuuan. Receiving a kick to the shin and a pointed look from Sakura, he rolled his eyes. If we have the time. I've been ignoring clan duties after all. Looking up as the announcement board showed Ino and Sakura's names, Naruto cheered for them both. Sakura gave a tired sigh as she jumped over the rail to her fight. Wait, what kind of duties do you have that you haven't been doing? Sasuke shrugged, realizing he's never talked about it with his team. Well, technically I'm the head of the Uchiha clan, and as such I'm supposed to be attending council meetings and such. I haven't had to until I became a full ninja, but now that I'm considered an adult, so I'm supposed to attend whenever I'm in the village. Not that it matters, I don't really have any influence at all right now. No clan of just one after all. Not that plenty of girls and women older, much older, than himself haven't offered to fix that. There was a reason Sasuke was so girl shy. Naruto nodded. Ah, well if you need help let us know. You know we'll help you out if we can. We're your team. Watching the two girls beat the snot out of each other below, Sasuke nodded. I appreciate it, Naruto. Looking over to the boy who started cheering for Sakura, and then cheering for Ino, he normally taciturn boy sighed. That doesn't mean you can solve my council issues with explosions. Kakashi spoke up from behind him. Book, I don't know, the Sandame has mentioned blowing up the council hall a few times in the past. Naruto hooked a thumb at their teacher. See, explosions solve everything. Rolling his eyes, Sasuke relaxed more against the dividing rail. Maybe after I finish my goal and hunt down my brother, I'll work on settling down too. Naruto nodded as both girls ran in for one final clash. Gonna quit pretending like you don't notice Sakura then. Seeing the double knockout, Naruto sighed and turned to his rival and friend. Sasuke wasn't sure what to say, but right now being honest about it all seemed to be working so far. It's not so much ignoring her. My brother, he killed everyone. I've had nightmares of him coming back and finishing the job, and I'm always worried he'll go after anyone close to me too. I don't want that to include my team. Feeling Naruto slug him in the shoulder, he looked up to the grinning boy. Then we just need to train harder, get stronger, and when it's time, we kick the shit out of your brother and make him apologize. Or blow him to bits. Both boys turned as Kakashi-sensei and Asuma-sensei came back up to the stands, laying down Sakura and Ino where they could wait out the rest of the matches since they weren't too injured, though Ino was sporting a new short hair look. Looking his teammate over and not seeing any injuries himself, Naruto turned back to the next match. But Sasuke nudged him to get his attention. What's up, Fireboy? What about you? Ever given thought about finding out where you came from? Seeing as how they were opening up a bit at the moment, Sasuke tried the same with Naruto. Naruto thought about it for a bit, idly scratching his chin. I mean, of course I'm curious. But I asking the Hokage about it once already and got a half answer. Apparently he can't tell me about my parents yet, but when I get older he can. So it's like, I gotta wait to learn anything. Which kinda sook? Sasuke thought about that. If the Hokage knew but said Naruto couldn't learn about it yet, did that mean his parents were somewhat important? While the Uzumaki name certainly wasn't popular, that didn't tell him much of anything. He'd seen mention of the clan in some history scrolls, but usually heavily glossed over. Maybe if Sakura was awake he could ask her. Or maybe later, as when he looked back he noticed an odd look in Kakashi-sensei's eyes. Well, even if you have to wait, at least you know that he's going to tell you one day. So that's something. Watching Gaara's sister Tamari beat back all of the attempts from the girl from Team 10 to attack her, Naruto commented on it, "Bad matchup looks like." Sasuke took a moment to watch the match before nodding, "You aren't wrong, maybe if Tenten had something with more piercing power, or something more close range." Wincing as Temari's wind blast sent her into the air, only to land on her spine on the winner's fan, the Leaf Nin side, or not. Kakashi spoke up this time, taking some interest and hopefully directing the conversation a bit. "Sometimes you get a bad matchup, that's why it's important to vary your training and skill set so you don't get stuck with only one or two methods of attack or retreat. Specialization of skills in our field of work can be a death sentence." That was part of why he had wanted them in the exam now, to learn those lessons in a mostly controlled environment. Idly watching as Shikamaru and the last sound ninja kin fought against each other, Kakashi pointed something else out, "Naruto. You've been varying your explosives recently." "Why?" Caught off guard by their teacher being interested in explosions for once, Naruto quickly nodded and held up an explosive note. Okay, so you know how an explosive note can be varied in power, but generally the bigger the note the more powerful it is." Seeing Sasuke and Kakashi nod, Naruto held up a slightly bigger note, "Just about twice as the first one, problem is that you can only go so big. And sure you can use more notes like I did with my suicide bracelets, but it's not efficient. So I looked into actual explosives too. And it came down to other things, like explosive velocity. Velocity. Like some explosions are faster than others." Sasuke now had his interest piqued. Naruto now put his tags away, before carefully unsealing a bottle of yellow-brown liquid. "Sure are. This stuff is nitroglycerin. So volatile that just tossing this bottle over my shoulder or even just shaking it hard enough could cause it to explode." Seeing his teammate and sensei lean away slightly, Naruto sealed it away into his pouch again. "Plus, just that one bottle, about as big as my sealing ink, is equal to about 100 explosive notes. So I can get a bigger boom with less, though it's more unstable. I'm looking into stuff that's more intense and more stable, but so far the explosive part of it isn't as strong. So I'm still looking." Seeing the boy had actually put some real thought into things, Kakashi however decided to caution him, "Just be care, I know you heal fast, but pretty sure you can't regrow a limb." Flinching slightly as an irritated fox declared that his absolutely could if needed, Naruto covered it up by nodded, "No worries sensei. As long as I keep the bottles sealed away they're stable." He wasn't going to worry them about mentioning just how much of the stuff he had on him at any given time. That was probably a bad idea. Watching as a tired Shikamaru knocked out Kin using his own shadow, Naruto cheered for the lazy boy. Talk about too smart for his own good. Sasuke scoffed, "Part of why he's so lazy." Missing Sakura and Ino coming to earlier, Sakura finally made her way back to the rail alongside her teammates while went to join her team again. "What did I miss?" Sasuke shrugged. "That sand girl beat Tenten from Team 10, and Shikamaru beat the girl from the sound team." Looking up, Sasuke sighed, "And you get to watch Naruto now I guess." Throwing up his fist, Naruto cheered and leapt over the rail. "All right. Let's make it flashy." Dropping into a three-pointed crouch, Naruto marveled as he finally felt used to moving without his weights on. Which meant he could go all out. Being approached by a smirking Kiba was throwing him off a bit. "Look here Akamaru. We got an easy win. No way the Dobi who had to be saved by Sasuke and got his eye torn out is any match for us." Kiba pointed at the last Uzumaki, "You might as well forfeit now before I humiliate you." Naruto bounced in place, "Come say that to my face Kiba." He had put into much work to be belittled by his former classmate like that. "Alright fine, begin." Their proctor jumped away and without any preamble Kiba was off like a shot to attack Naruto head-on. However, Naruto had been training day and night against clones that whether he knew it or not could move at the speed of thought. Then between fighting Haku and later Orochimaru, Kiba was almost slow. Pivoting away from the overextended forward strike, Naruto thrust his own palm forward and into Kiba's gut, rocketing the boy off and into the far wall. Not slowing down, Naruto made his usual brace of a dozen clones. For underestimating me, we're gonna make this flashy. And the clones all blurred into movement. What the hell was da? Before Kita could fully stand, he was kicked in the side by a clone, which led into a palm thrust, and a roundhouse, then an axe kick, and on it went. In the stands, everyone watched as Naruto and his clones bounced the Inuzuka around the arena floor. It so far wasn't so much a fight as Naruto making a mockery of his opponent, but eventually Akamaru was able to disable a few clones and earn Kiba a breather. What the hell? Looking up, Kiba came face to fist with another clone. Tell me how fire tastes. The clone exploded, tossing the genin and his dog away into the air, where they landed in a heap in the center of the arena. Naruto paused, waiting to see if the proctor would call it. Even though Kiba had insulted him, he was still a member of the Leaf and a teammate, sorta, so it wasn't like he wanted to kill him after all. And, after the proctor checked on him and called the match, Naruto cheered, "Woo yeah. Who's awesome?" Sakura sighed, "Should we tag team him and beat some humility into him?" Sasuke shook his head, "Heads to hard, wouldn't work." Looking over however at a lavender-eyed girl, Sasuke smirked, "Make Hinata or Ino do it." High-fiving the boy with a chuckle, they both congratulated a happy Naruto. Though Sakura had a question, "Why didn't you use your sword at all?" Naruto shrugged, "Kubikiribocho is a sword of killing. At least against Leaf Nins I don't wanna draw it. It's meant for spilling blood. Not for a friendly match." Nodding with his reasoning and watching the board, Sakura along with a few others all gasped at the names brought up. Oh no. Naruto looked up and frowned, Hinata and Neji. Wasn't that her cousin she mentioned once? Looking down as they both entered the ring and Neji immediately tried to convince Hinata to quit, Naruto didn't have good feelings about this. Why's he such an SS? Again Kakashi spoke up, the topic a little older than the kids. Neji is of the branch house of the Hyuga clan. Hinata is from the main branch. To outsiders it's like a servant-master relationship, and Neji holds some resentment against Hinata. There's more to it, but I can't speak on it. That Neji somehow blamed Hinata for his father's death wasn't his business to tell, but they'd find out sooner or later with how chatty the Hyuga seemed to be. Watching Hinata hold her own, Naruto cheered loudly for the girl, "You got this, Hinata. Don't give up." Sasuke shook his head, "Be reasonable though. Her cousin has an extra year of experience on him, and he's apparently a gentle fist prodigy. How is she supposed to hold up against that?" Naruto shrugged, "Even if she can't, she should still push herself. He's family, not like he'd really hurt her in the end." Wanting to dispute that entirely but knowing now wasn't the time, Sasuke made note that Hinata's strikes were losing their power. "She's slowly down." Sakura nodded, "Yeah, but why? They haven't been fighting long." After watching Hinata retreat and listen to her cousin speak, the clearly tired girl pulled up her jacket sleeves, exposing the red marks from Jukin's strikes. "Guess that's that." Naruto shook his head, "That's bogus, she can't be out yet." Watching the whip off her jacket and throw it at her cousin's eyes, a tactic she had used against Naruto once during training, she got a few good hits in before he cousin freed himself and they were back at it, thought Neji was much harsher than before. "See, she still has some fight in her." Kakashi sighed, "Having the will to fight is all well and good, so long as you don't kill yourself trying to do so. Sometimes it's better to retreat and learn from your mistakes." Everyone watched as Neji connected with a strike to the side of Hinata's chest. They both had paused there before Hinata slumped to the ground and Neji backed away, calling for the proctor to call the match. And it was here that Naruto saw something in the girl that completely had his attention. Fighting and crawling her way to her feet, she took her stance again. She was barely standing, and clearing out of the match, but she still had a smirk on her face that many would recognize as more at home or Naruto's face, and said something to her cousin. Enraged and boiling with chakra, the white-clothed boy turned and rocketed toward the girl, visible chakra wafting off his hand in a clearly deadly strike. Several things happened at once. Naruto was already moving, sword in hand and already swinging. By the time he touched down in front of Hinata, a hidden clone transforming in order to catch her, his sword swing was arching toward Neji's chest. Two Junin were holding Neji, one with bandages holding his hand while another had him in a choke hold. Kakashi had Naruto's sword wrapped up and anchored to the ground with ninja wire, while the proctor Hayate was holding his sword to Naruto's neck, who himself had frozen mid-step. I suggest you both cool your heads. Hayate wasn't in the mood to play around at the moment. Of course the main branch gets special treatment, shameful. Neji was already pulling away, a frown on his face. Naruto didn't say anything, drawing his sword away once Hayate pulled away from him and shook loose from the ninja wire before turning to his clone. She's hurt bad, boss. Medics were already coming towards them, gently moving the clone away from moving the bleeding Hinata onto a stretcher and hurrying away with her. Naruto was staring at a point on the ground, a pool of her blood staring back at him. Idly he dismissed the clone. Weaklings should learn their place. Neji was being ushered away by his upset sensei. Kakashi was trying to do the same with an oddly quiet Naruto. Turning away from the girl's blood, sword still in hand, Naruto agreed. You're right. Looking up at Neji with an odd tinge to his purple eye, Naruto was grinning. The weak should learn their place. Above them the other members of Team 7 shivered when they saw the look in Naruto's eyes. And both silently offered up a prayer for Neji, the boy not realizing just what kind of enemy he just made. And as their sensei and Naruto rejoined them, leaving the kids to have a word with Guy, Naruto took there quietly, sword finally stowed away on his back. Both Sakura and Sasuke were looking for the correct thing to open up the conversation, but it was a contemplative Ino who walked over and joined them, standing shoulder to shoulder with Naruto for a moment. She'll be alright, you know. She's a lot stronger than she looks. While they were rivals in love, they were still fellow Leaf Ninja and friends. And she'd never wish what just happened on a friend. Naruto nodded but didn't say a word at first, before he took a deep breath and let it out slowly, now watching the match between Gaara and Lee. I know. But, to watch a family try to kill another over something they can't control, that's garbage. I'm gonna feed him my foot through his SS. Chuckling and nudging the boy again, the now short-haired Ino smiled as the light came back to his eyes. I'll pay to watch that, and I'm sure Hinata will too. Just don't kill him. Even if he deserves it, shouldn't his fate be up to her? Naruto nodded. You're right. I won't. Looking at the jade-eyed girl and grinned. Thanks Ino-chan, you're the best. Turning to walk back to her team, Ino nodded with a smile. Oh, I know it, but you can praise me more all you want later. After we make sure Hinata is better. Saying her piece, Ino sashayed away. Sakura grinned. So what's the plan then? Since you moved up, you might get to fight Neji in the finals. Happy to see some life return to her teammate and friend, she was already feeling better for the boy. Naruto held up a finger as if imparting sage advice. Oh, you know, introduce him to the wonders of explosions. Maybe kick his teeth in. You don't need teeth to talk, at least not enough to apologize. Oh, Naruto was going to plan for this. Oh yes he was. Watching the matching between the Sand Ninja and Guy's protege end in Gaara's favor brought the team down a bit, but the boy was still standing, which could have been worse. Another sensei had to get involved though, which considering the look Gaara had in his eye, no one was truly sure if that'd be enough. But after a few tense moments, Gaara relented and left the area floor. Sasuke turned back to his sensei, doing his best to ignore his teammates' muttering, so that's about it then, who's left? Sakura answered before their sensei could, Choji and Dosu. Naruto, however, was ignoring everything around him, doing something he previously wouldn't have considered at this time. And that was exploring his feelings involving the two girls he had interacted with the most recently. That instant instinctual urge to protect Hinata had come out of nowhere. And while he wanted to ignore it and say it was nothing, Naruto knew that'd be a lie. They hadn't spent a lot of time together, but it was something that he had already built up some type feelings for her. Not sure what exactly love really entailed, he could say at least that he wanted to shield her from harm, and didn't want to see her hurt. Looking over at the other half of the problem, Naruto looked at the platinum blonde who had tried to cheer him up. Would he have moved to protect her just as quickly in the same situation? Something told Naruto that he would have, which begged the question. Who could he talk to about this? Kakashi-sensei was out, he was a pervert. Maybe Gigi. No, he was a pervert too. Well, he also had been married, so that was a maybe instead. There was Iruka-sensei, maybe he could help. He was good at answering questions. Nodding to himself and making a plan, Naruto almost missed it when Sakura shook him. Huh, was it? Rolling her eyes and mentally complaining about explosions and concussions, Sakura pointed down to the arena floor. Prelims are over. Gotta take a number to determine your lineup for the finals. Watching the boy nod and follow after Sasuke, Sakura walked over to Ino, an idea in her mind about her own hair. Naruto barely paid attention to what was about to happen, only doing as he was told when prompted to pull a ball from the box provided to him by Hayate. Seeing a number 1 on the ball, Naruto waited for everyone else to finish and Hayate to write everyone's names on a whiteboard. And it was there, seeing his name next to Neji's, that all the feelings he had felt over the last 30 minutes slammed into his chest. The grin that was stretching over his face was far more feral than anyone thought should be on a human face. Above them, Kakashi sighed while Guy looked at him with concern. Don't worry, Kakashi. I'll set the boy straight and make sure he shows restraint during their match. Naruto won't come to much harm. Kakashi shook his head while Tenten and Team Up, who were eavesdropping, listened on. No, the opposite in fact. Might want to convince Neji to train like hell this month. 'Cause considering how Naruto is feeling right now. Kakashi watched as, unnoticed to Naruto or anyone close to him, his hand was opening and closing as if itching to grab his sword. I'm pretty sure you might wanna start planning for a funeral.